Welcome back to Sportsmanlike Conduct Podcast. We're joined by Quincy out of the ATL. How you doing, Quincy?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on.
All right, we last left off. I want to touch on Deion, right? My thing with Deion was he was complaining that only one player got drafted.
Okay.
I mean, for him to complain is kind of silly because he took his 3 players from Jackson State.
And one of them was a 5-star recruit.
To Buffalo. Colorado. You know what I'm saying?
Colorado, yeah. Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, that's so. Now you're part of the problem. You're wondering why they only drafted one player, but you took a 5-star. You took with him?
Yeah, he was 5. He was actually the number 1 high school recruit,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Until he signed, then ESPN try to pull that that BS.
Oh, he wasn't the top recruit anymore.
Nah, I think when he signed, they dropped it down to 2, but we still gonna recognize him as number 1 because that's how we do it with family.
I hear you.
He was definitely number 1.
Yeah,
for
so
years.
I don't know.
For like 2 years, he was number 1.
Yeah, just kind of irked me with that. Like he's part of the problem. Took 3 players to Colorado, but what's happening, I think, with HBCUs, especially now with the portal system. Mm-hmm. They could actually make a name for themselves and then join the portal and join the Power 5. Yeah. But then, is that really helping the problem? As far as keeping HBCUs viable, as far as, players getting drafted?
Initially, no. I understand the reason for leaving if you feel like a schematic fit is better for you. So I'm never against a young man making what they feel is the best decision for them. But I will say if you're going to go that route and do it, at least have something in place where you continue to recognize the place that gave you the opportunity and where you started at. And then if you do make it to the league and stuff like that, have some kind of setup to where you can help support the institution that you initially started at.
That is a fantastic idea because you have to search hard, mm-hmm. to find players that got drafted or either picked up by a NFL team that talk about the HBCUs that they went to, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you got their own players are not even promoting the schools that they came from.
Exactly. Which we can talk about drafted, which is a yearly thing. But if you want to look at just clearly let's say top 10 all-time greats,
right?
You got a strong
Jerry Rice
came out of HBCUs.
Yeah,
Jerry Rice, Walter Payton.
I mean, yeah,
that's like the top 2. You know what I mean?
The first winning, black Super Bowl quarterback has come out of Grambling.
Doug Williams.
The first black quarterback that started an NFL game has come out of Grambling, and that's not even going to Doug Williams.
That's that one for the Rams. What was his name? He played for the Rams. Oh man, what was that guy's name?
Speaking of that, right? So what is it that you think that since we have these black players that came way before Deion, mm-hmm. why do you think that they're not contributing right now, especially when they made bread through the NFL? Why do you think that they're not out there doing the same thing like a Deion?
Well, I think a huge part of the problem is obviously there's a disconnect somewhere. And from the time of when they was in their heyday to the time they went into retirement and to the time that now there's a resurgence, if you look at a lot of these institutions, there's been a high turnover. So wherever there's not an anchor, then there's a leak. So, and that being said, let's look at how many presidents have changed. Let's look at how many ADs have changed. And also let's look at some of the former coaches that's been there that have, maybe passed away and, not there to be that communication of, hey, let's have this in place and let's do this, that, and the third.
I got you. Now, I don't mean to bring Dallas Cowboys back into this conversation.
Yes, he did. What's your favorite football team before they start rambling?
So right now I'm searching. I'm a Tom Brady guy. And so football isn't my number one sport, but I do enjoy watching it because how everybody plays a role on the team.
Okay. Basketball, best sport.
Yeah. There's a kid, Isaiah Land, right, from Florida.
Yeah.
And
FAMU.
Cowboys, I guess, signed him, right? Undrafted, they signed him. Now, of course, I'm rooting for this guy, right? If he makes the roster, I just might go get his jersey. You know what I'm saying? So it's things like that. So through the HBCU combine, this is how these guys got discovered, right? They're doing unbelievable, like running 40 times, 4 threes. So athletically, it's all there. You know what I'm saying? But I guess they figuring the competition that they played against, it kind of goes against them when it comes to the draft. Well, we all know that these top draft picks, half of them don't pan out anyway, right? Who's the kid on Detroit now? Wasn't he a HBCU guy?
Yeah, so he actually came out of Jackson State.
Okay. I know Jackson State, they got another linebacker, I think. He's doing well too. Aubrey Miller.
The one for Detroit, my mind is running blank, but he's the fourth. Okay. And then the one that just got signed from out of Jackson State, I think with Miami Dolphins. Yeah. His name is
Aubrey Miller.
James Houston the fourth is the guy for Detroit Lions, and then Aubrey Miller is the guy for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that's good stuff. They're probably going to make the team because athletically these guys are off the charts.
Oh, man. So I would say both of them. I mean, personally, I haven't met them, but I went to the game down in Florida when FAMU and Jackson State played, and so I got to shake their hands, all this other stuff. But yeah, if you look at these guys, like physically, they just are some beasts out there. Yeah. And both of them, I want to say, initially started at SEC schools. One of them went to Florida, and then the other one is from out of Mizzou.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only draft pick, Isaiah Bolden, right? I'm looking at his numbers. Yeah. This guy ran a 4.3 and a 40. Like he's that dude, a DB, right?
Yeah. A lot of Patriots.
Yeah. So I could see him fitting in, starting right there. I'm surprised Deion didn't grab him. I wonder what happened.
His eligibility was up.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Deion didn't even do it yet. You're right. All right.
Yeah, so, he even played he even coached yet, really. But he's definitely changing life over there.
Yeah. This is the off season right now. So he just took that job back had it been, I think, end of November, early December.
Did he take his son? He took his son with him?
Yeah.
He's going to be the star quarterback.
Is his son good? Is his son good? Is his son good?
Coach Brown ain't going nowhere without his son. Like, has he ever been anywhere without his son?
Nah, he used to. He's good? I mean, not used to, but he's all right. He's good. We're going to see now when, he has to go against people that, like these D1 schools that recruit athletes just as good as him.
What position he play?
Like, huh?
So he has one son that's a quarterback. He has one son that's a quarterback, and then his other son is like a free safety.
Yeah, definitely a DB.
All right, man. Ponix, any other questions for my main man Quincy out of Atlanta?
Well, we holding him to be the HBCU spokesperson now.
Listen. We can't. We need the information. He got it.
Look, remember, being up here in the Northeast, there's really there's one in Pennsylvania, but I don't even think people count that.
True. That's true. I mean, his daughter went to Howard.
You talking about HBCU in Pennsylvania?
That's close. I think it's is it Liberty? Is it called Liberty?
But and that one's running a blank in my mind. But if I'm not mistaken, the one in Pennsylvania is probably the oldest HBCU around. Yeah. HBCU is still, operating.
Yo, why aren't there any HBCUs west, man?
Because you got to think about when slavery was going on and
all that stuff is down.
Black folks wasn't even in the West then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had slave states versus states that weren't slave states.
Yo, I do got a question actually though. You play ball, right?
Yeah.
All right. So in your heyday, how old are you? If you mind?
I am 34.
All right. In your heyday, right? Have you ever played like D1, like PWI players?
Oh, yeah. So schools, I mean, we played against TCU. We played against Oklahoma State. Texas A&M was a year before I had got there. Who else did we play that just really? Do y'all remember Fareed from out of Morehead State?
Yeah.
Ken Fareed?
Yeah, with the dreads.
Yeah, Ken Fareed,
Yeah, with the
So played against him. And then this is another thing I chime in and say. So we played against them in a tournament down in Cancun, Mexico.
Yeah.
And because of playing at an HBCU, that's where I got my first passport. And was exposed to something totally different outside the country. But yeah, so our non-conference schedule was predominantly PWIs, and then our conference schedules, of course, swag play.
All right, so my follow-up was, I feel like you're honest. Did you ever see like a divide? Like, did you see like a different in competition? Like, when going against some of the bigger schools, quote unquote?
Yeah.
Like, did you see like the difference, and how vast was it? Like,
yeah. So I will also throw in we played against UGA. So we played against Georgia also. But yeah, there was a difference at the time. Mentally, I was like, okay, we're playing against these schools. These guys are better than us. We're walking into these facilities again. That's intimidating us.
Yeah.
Like he's just lined up and everything. and so, but looking back at it now and having the knowledge that I have now,
it was a mental thing.
I look at how much in place were the administration, the coaching staff, the players that had been there versus the way that our team was set up, because we would have transfers that come in pretty much every year. And then another thing to add to that, at Grambling State this year, we actually beat quite a few Power 5 schools. Mm-hmm. One of them beat Colorado. Mm-hmm. One of them beat Vanderbilt. We won our conference tournament and our conference regular season. Well, no, we didn't win our conference tournament, but we won our regular season championship, and we made it to the championship in the conference tournament. But all that to say is it was a lot more stability that was in place, and allows you to develop the players, have your nutrition, have your plan in place for everybody to develop year in, year out.
For sure.
Yeah, we got the gentleman on my right over here was a great college basketball player himself.
I wouldn't say great, but
hey, take it. Just take it, man.
Pause.
Say it. You're right.
I had some good years in college ball out in Delphi, out in Long Island. But I also have a nephew that went to Norfolk State. Did you guys play against Norfolk State?
And that's another wild thing. No, we never did. And as I was, because Norfolk is in a different conference. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, they might be, I don't know if they're Division I or not. I have to double check that. But going back to me saying what I knew about Grambling before I got to school, I didn't even know much about like other HBCUs that was out there.
Mm. Now,
you know what I'm saying?
Norfolk State is a D1. They were just in the tournament.
Yeah.
All right. Cool, man. I'm glad we cleared this up, man. Your insight is very, very important to us, because you went there.
As a side note, that they have two in Pennsylvania, Cheney and Lincoln. Lincoln is like the oldest, one of the oldest HBCUs in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Just for a fact.
Yeah. So
you're right though. Being in the Northeast, we don't even.
Yeah, they don't.
Unless
we take college tours with our kids.
They don't
not
push that.
Any HBCUs. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, man. I think it's crazy though, because like you guys have the benefit of being like hip to it, I guess, because you guys are not necessarily like, you're not immigrants. My dad wasn't going on a college tour with me. You feel me? So it's just like
a lot of that is true though.
Yeah, so like my pops is Haitian. My mom is Haitian. My mom's not getting on a plane. So so like a lot of the stuff, like as bad as it sounds, like certain cultures and certain upbringings, it would like literally like I would have to find it. You know what I mean? So like I knew about Howard because I found out about Howard and I was recommended Howard when I'm already enrolled in school. And bringing that back to my mom's is like, all right, cool. Like she's gonna be like, all right, cool, tell my dad. Then my dad is not really gonna stress it because it's like, I guess it's like a culture pride thing too. So they don't really look at it like, all right, cool, like, yeah, that'd be great, but we have you here. How are you not going to succeed here that we already have you enrolled here? So a lot of college and navigation should be like, I feel like the conversation is definitely a healthy conversation, but I feel like there should be a way where it's being introduced early on as opposed to just being introduced or seen through a movie or like when you're already like too old. Like I feel like why not hear about an HBCU in 10th grade? You feel me? Like why not hear about it early on?
Yeah, early.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then it can help you push that information. You can come home and ask your parent like, yeah, all right, cool. Like there's this school that does this, that does. A lot of it is like I don't want to say gatekeeping because I don't think it's the institutions that's doing that, but a lot of it is just like he said, like it's marketing. It's like it's not shown. So it's just like if you don't hear about it and you don't go looking for it, how do you ever discover the information?
You know what was big for us too with HBCUs, even though it was fictitious, was a different world. The show, even though it was straight fictitious, it was an insight to how
100%.
those schools were. Between that and what's the other show?
Cosby.
Nah. Actually, the movie School Days. Spike Lee School Days.
You see what you said? Look, you see. Think about when those drop. Look, I'm the youngest on the podcast. Trust me, they won't let me stop hearing from it. My introduction to HBCU, like the first time, like where I clicked. It clicked for me. Is what's the movie? Stomp the Yard.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So like, yeah,
that was a good movie.
Like that's my introduction to it.
Marching
and it's just
bands.
like you still don't really understand it. You get what I mean?
But it intrigued you to like, you know what?
Yeah, exactly. School is like this.
Yeah.
And then
So let's. Oh,
Bro, you get scholarships for marching bands.
yeah, you feel me? Like that's dope and it's rich in culture. But I think like that should be pushed. It should be pushed. It shouldn't be about just a stepping movie. Like, you feel me? Like I was like, think about it. Like I was like, I paid attention enough to know what the movie was like based in, but a lot of people would miss that undertones because they just watching a movie about stepping. Yeah. I feel like you should also like find a way to make that more of a plot point and things like that.
So I'll chime in on that. First, we have to understand what media and entertainment is. So at the bare minimum, if we're looking at radio or if we're looking at newspaper or we're looking at TV, I mean, they have the word programming.
Yeah.
You know, and that is programming you to show what they want you to see.
For sure.
So to take it another step further, if we look at the timeline of, let's say, like the last 60 years or even 70 years of when HBCUs were on their high in their golden era, and couple that when they were really having slots of being shown. You know, so if you look at the 80s where you got the Cosby Show or you got A Different World or you have School Days and all that stuff, you will see that enrollment was high, sports was thriving, the income was thriving. Then I thought the other gentleman was going to talk about on BET when they had the HBCU shows. Like
College Hill
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, that was another time when it was rolling, people was coming in and stuff.
100%.
And then you have the most recent where you have Coach Prime, which, as we stated before, I'm not putting the whole thing on him, but he is a huge figure that shifts and moves the needle. And let's probably go back and look at the enrollment or the success that schools was having. That's directly with him. And BET had a wonderful thing going on, or I don't know, I think CBS might have had the Cosbys or whatever the case may be. NBC. But minorities, it was what?
Oh, it was NBC.
NBC. Okay, yeah. So it was NBC. But us as minorities, we don't own those platforms. Yeah. We don't own those networks. So if you have somebody else that comes in, you know, let's say a majority that comes in and is like, all right, well, we're gonna run these shows so that way we can own this intellectual property or own this content, and we can then license it or rerun it whenever we want to. We can toss that to the side when we want to.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a Notre Dame or it comes to a USC or it comes to all this, that's their people, so they're going to push for it, their people. And, you know, people can feel however they want to feel about Diddy, but Diddy has a network. You know what I'm saying? He has a Revolt. We can't depend on BET to continuously show things that put us in a positive light. Why? Because Viacom owns them.
Yeah.
Viacom is not a minority owned, you know, business.
At all.
So, you know, and that's why I feel like with the whole Coach Prime thing is I believe this guy is very intelligent and he knows what he's doing, but also that money being right there for probably his retirement is guaranteed is going to last longer than what, you know, waiting on that money from an HBCU. Mm-hmm. But my guy, with you being there, how many of those games was on ESPN alone?
All the games are televised.
Yeah, are you think they're there for Jackson State, or they're there because Coach Prime, one of the greatest, you know, NFL athletes, is there? You know what I'm saying? So that's why, you know, I respect you guys for having me on your platform and talking about this, because I don't know if y'all are owned by anybody else or not, but if it is owned by y'all, you have control on what you want to talk about, what you decide to display and put out there, and then hopefully us and then others are tuning in and like, hey, like, I enjoy this conversation. I see where this is going. I want to tune in more, because what you don't know, you don't understand. That's not a shot. It's just ultimately saying, like, we have to have this talked about more, so that way more people can be informed on the greatness that our community has. And this is us. This isn't us building other people. This is us building us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that people thought we were taking shots at HBCUs. But I have a question for you. How many more years do you think it would have took Deion to, I guess, make a significant shift in the HBCUs?
So I look at that. First, I would say I felt he would have only been there maybe 3 or 4 years, the total time that Shedeur would be there and possibly go to the NFL if that's in the cards for him. But I think something could have been done within that time frame, because I would look at when does certain TV deal and contracts end, his relationships that he have for other, you know, with other companies. And, you know, one of the things I have to kind of ask is, like, tangibly, what can we look at and see that, like, all right, you know, while he was here, this impact lasts a long time. I don't want to hear about no practice field. I want to hear about, hey, you have a partnership with, I believe the airlines was maybe American Airlines or United. Does that deal only last while you're there at Jackson State, or does that continue on after you leave? More times than not, that ends after you leave, right? But with Under Armour is still with Jackson State. That's huge for Jackson State. But Under Armour is probably there because he burned them to go leave and hop with Nike. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So what is if you're telling us that you're here because God told you to come here, if you're here to change the narrative and show that you can succeed here and that you can send people to higher levels, well, then what continues on when you're gone? Because you're telling us what you're here to do, not us asking you what are you going to do while you're here. Because last thing I'll leave with, the only thing I believe is that most people was just excited that he was coming to be a coach, and that's the only thing people was going to hold you accountable is for how you coach on and off the field, not that you brought on.
Yeah, I don't have a number, but I always say is the same kids you promised sat in their living room as freshmen, you need to see them graduate. Then I could be like, all right, that's enough time. The same kids that you spoke to come there, they should graduate. So that's about 4 years, I think.
He's going to speak to new kids, a new batch every year.
I'm just saying the year you get hired, those freshmen, you should see them graduate. Then I believe that's a good time to leave as a coach.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, right? how effective do you think his time was in terms of impact on HBCU, not so much Jackson State?
I say it was.
I would give it probably a 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Wow, that's low.
I would say 10 just because it actually got broadcasted. His games got broadcasted on national stages and platforms like it's never has been before, unless it was like a Bayou Classic. Remember the one they used to always bring up to the Meadowlands back in the days?
Yeah.
Like to start off the college season.
And they got one coming up this year, Gremlins and that, and I think they're playing against Howard.
I think that one might be in Yankee Stadium because I think they did one last year in Yankee Stadium. So I think that
the crazy part is I personally like if I'm looking at him from just being a coach, I can firmly just give him like an 8.5, right? But the reason why I give him like on average like a 5 is because I feel like my outlook on it is if you do certain things, like he said, like to burn the progress that you did, like it's a setback that you created for yourself. So like genuine, like you being genuine about what you came there for, it kind of becomes in question now. So because there's that question mark for me, I give him at least like a 5.
If you do both the impact and then how he left it,
exactly,
it's
like
a 10 on the impact, and how he left is a 0.
Exactly.
So you gotta give him a 5.
That's why I gave him a 5.
Yeah, I give it a wash.
So for the gentleman, is that a $sign or an S?
S.
S. Okay.
That's O. My name is O.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. So I want to hear more on, you're looking to the impact and why you give him a 10.
Well, it's only a 10 in what impact he bought. I agree. How he left was totally shitty. So overall, like I said, it's a 10 and a 0. He went from a 10 to bringing notoriety, good players, and his team was actually winning. It's not like he came there and was an average team. He came in and immediately impacted. No? Yeah, one year they were undefeated. Like, immediately they were a totally different team. But like you said, the way he left, I don't mind the 2 you gave him. I actually would give him less than that for the way he bounced. You know what I'm saying? I think you're being kind, but overall, it's like a 4 or 5 for me because, like I said, it's a 10 for the impact he had, and it's a 0 for the way he left. So
yeah, and it's no issues. It's the reason why I asked that is just to kind of view, just be on the same page of how you view impact and everything. Because just once again, I mean, I don't want to discredit anything that he's done. I mean, for you to go into coaching and sacrifice your life to be somewhat of a father figure to a bunch of young men, I mean, that's kudos through the roof in itself. I just more so look at impact like for the long-term effects of, like, what does the long-term effects look like? And it's a little early to say now, but I would say this when it comes to the commissioner. It's like, hey, if you got Coach Prime coming in, you're behind you to go sit with ESPN and renegotiate this deal.
Yep. No doubt. Even get one.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you now have leverage. And when I just look at, like, hey, you want to be a crusader of the change for all HBCUs, well, what do you have in place that does affect all HBCUs or just a small number over the span of maybe the next 5 to 10 years? And that's hard to quantify right now.
Yeah, I get that.
I think how much more time on the Zoom, bro?
It's showing 7:30 for me.
7 minutes?
Yes, 7 minutes and 20.
All right, cool. On that scale, I would give him a 5 because I think that Deion, I think the goal was you have to get more of his players drafted or into the NFL.
Or even try out.
That is the only way HBCUs could have grown. You know what I'm saying? Because I think he took them there and then he left, and now we don't even talk about him anymore. Right? They're not on ESPN. Yeah. Are they still on ESPN?
Well, we don't know. The season didn't start. We won't know. He just left after the season completed. But if they pull out, if the sponsors I'm sorry to cut you off, but if those people pull out that he brought in, then you know it's a fraud. Yeah, pause. Then you know it's a fraudulent. What he did was just, then that becomes a negative zero, if that's possible.
Negative, absolute zero.
A little bit about ESPN. Like we've had deals with ESPN over the years and even now currently. So we have a deal with ESPN where they have rights to games. But it's up to them if they decide if they want to stream it on their on the app, on the ESPN app, or if they want to move it up to like ESPN, ESPN2. So we pretty much know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, it's either ESPN 43 on Plus.
We're going to be way somewhere like buried at the end of the app, you know what I'm saying?
The Ocho.
Yeah. Yo, Quincy, man. You got more time? You want to talk some NBA soon?
Yeah, man, look, I'm free tonight. Like I said, if I would have known and been more prepared, look, when we start this link back up, I'm coming back with my grandma hoodie.
All right.
All right, let's go.
We'll be right back with Quincy.
Yo, you gonna get a headache, bro. You gonna get a headache with these takes.